kicked out, rebuilt my life, and found true happiness my journey of triumph. I'm 26 now, but things have been rough for a long time. My mom chose my toxic stepsister over me and kicked me out, and now, even though I'm engaged, things are still a mess. I've been with my fiancé, Jeff, for a couple of years now. We've been engaged for about 2 months. We met 4 years ago through a dating app, and since then, we've been inseparable. I know it sounds like something out of a movie, but Jeff is the only person who's ever really had my back. We're soulmates. He's the only one who's never let me down. My life hasn't been easy, though. My parents split up when I was just a toddler, and my dad took off without a second thought. He paid child support, sure, but he wasn't the kind of dad who bothered to check in or see how I was doing. I can't even remember the last time I heard from him. As for my mom, well, she wasn't much better. She wasn't the best mom, especially when I was growing up. I spent most of my childhood with nannies or babysitters. Mom was always off doing something else, mostly hanging out with her friends or dating some guy. She was a freelance artist, which paid decently, but she didn't really care about raising me. She only had me because it was the law. She got child support checks to take care of me, so I guess that's how she got by. If I'm being honest, I don't think she ever cared about me the way a mother should. If it weren't for that child support, I'm pretty sure she would have kicked me out a long time ago. When I was 13, she started dating Matt, my stepdad. He was 50 and had a daughter named Jess, who was about my age. My mom brought him and his daughter over to meet me, and it was awkward. I was already used to her bringing boyfriends around, but this time, she told me I had to be on my best behavior. I didn't get why this guy was different from the others, but I figured I'd just go along with it. The first time I met Matt and Jess, they were nice enough, but I didn't think much of it. Things started changing fast, though. Matt spent more and more time at our place, and before long, it felt like they were living there full time. I didn't care much, as long as they left me alone. I was content just doing my thing. But then things changed again. My mom told me I was going to have to share my room with Jess. That was a line I wasn't willing to cross. My room had been my personal space forever, and it was the one place where I felt at peace. I wasn't going to give that up, especially not for someone I barely knew. So I told her I wasn't doing it. Of course, we had a huge argument. She threatened to throw me out, but I knew she couldn't. I was 14, and I knew enough about the law to know that she couldn't just boot me out of the house until I was an adult. I wasn't scared of her threats. In the end, she gave in and turned the basement into Jess's room. It wasn't as nice as mine, but it worked for her. Mom put some effort into making it livable, but it wasn't anything special. But after that, Jess started treating me like an enemy. I think it had something to do with my mom making a big deal about the whole sharing a room thing in front of Jess, as if to make me feel guilty. It backfired, though. Jess hated me after that. I didn't want to share my room, and she couldn't get over it. The worst part was, I hadn't done anything to her. She was mad just because I didn't want to give up my room. It was a ridiculous reason to hate me, but she did it anyway. And she made sure to let me know just how much she hated me. She would say nasty things, like the reason my dad left my mom was because of me. She laughed about it like it was some kind of joke. She'd pick on me for being a little overweight, and she'd spread rumors about me at school. Her group of friends at school was a tight-knit clique of mean girls, and they all followed her lead, bullying me when they could. I didn't care about being popular, but I sure as hell didn't want to be the target of her cruelty. I never asked for any of this. I just wanted to be left alone. My room was my safe place, and they were trying to take that away from me. It wasn't right. Over time, it only got worse. I was getting bullied at school, and my home life was no better. My mom and Matt kept backing up whatever Jess did, no questions asked. At one point, she turned the whole school against me. By the time I graduated, I barely had any friends left. I had gained a lot of weight, and my appearance was changing for the worse. Acne, bad hair, and just feeling miserable. It didn't help that I was struggling with my grades too. I felt like I had nothing going for me. Things at home weren't better, either. Jess and my mom kept piling on the pressure, and I had no one to turn to. My mom started comparing me to Jess all the time, like I wasn't good enough. I felt like I was invisible. I didn't belong in my own home, and I was starting to think that maybe it was time for me to get out. I had no real family to turn to. My grandparents didn't talk to us, and I never knew my dad's side of the family. It was just me and my mom, but I felt like I wasn't even her daughter anymore. I was just a burden to her, and Jess was the daughter she always wanted. When I turned 18, I was kicked out of the house. I had no other place to go, but I was relieved. I couldn't live in that toxic environment anymore. I'd been fighting to survive for years, and finally, I was free. Things were getting more complicated by the day. Jess had always hated me, and for no reason I could understand. She seemed to think I was always jealous of her, that I could never measure up to her. I was crying by this point, uncontrollably, but it didn't seem to faze my mom. She just kept shouting, blaming me for everything. After a while, she stopped yelling and told me I needed to leave. I had no idea what she was talking about, so I asked her where I was supposed to go. She didn't care. She just wanted me out. When I refused, she threatened to call the cops. She said since I was almost 18, the police would take the drug allegations seriously. She didn't want an addict living with her anymore, taking all her money and resources. She was done pretending we were a happy family, and as far as she was concerned, I deserved nothing. I begged her not to kick me out. I wanted to leave, but I knew I didn't have anywhere to go and no money to survive on my own. My mom didn't care. She said if I didn't leave that day, she'd call the cops herself. I couldn't believe how cruel she was being, especially since Matt and Jess didn't say a word. They were going about their day like nothing was happening. After a lot of crying and begging, I finally started packing. I figured I'd rather live on the streets than risk being arrested for something I didn't do. I finished packing by the evening, and when I walked out of the house, no one said goodbye. I didn't look back. I went to the park and sat for a few hours, but it started getting cold, so I decided to go to a friend's place. I went to Amy's apartment and asked if I could stay with her for a few days. She already knew how bad things were with my parents, so I didn't have to explain much. When I told her what had happened that day, she was horrified. She said her parents could help me if I'd let them. I always told Amy not to tell anyone about how my family treated me, but that day, she insisted. She made me talk to her parents, and they were just as appalled as she was. They called my mom to try and talk to her, but my mom was rude and unpleasant. They realized there was no point in trying to talk to her, so they did something I will forever be grateful for. They offered to let me stay with them as long as I needed. Amy's family was wealthy, so money wasn't an issue. Amy even offered to share a room with me. I ended up living with them for the next few years while I attended community college, the only place that accepted me due to my poor grades. I started working, saving money, and planning to buy my own place. Amy's parents made sure I never felt pressured to leave, and they made me as comfortable as possible. Around 3 years ago, I finally saved enough to move out. I was proud of myself, and I was beyond grateful to Amy and her parents. I honestly couldn't have done it without them. They even helped me settle into my new home. They told me I could always come back to visit or even live with them again if I needed to. That was the turning point for me. By then, I had lost a lot of weight and my health had improved significantly. I felt and looked better. I was also earning enough to support myself, and I had worked hard to improve my life. I decided it was time to start dating. I wanted to get married someday, and it was time to look for the right person. I met a few guys before Jeff, but they never worked out. It always fizzled before it got serious. Then I met Jeff, and everything just clicked. We were meant to be together. I had no idea he was wealthy or that he was the heir to his father's business when we first started dating. I liked him because he was funny, cute, and he seemed to like me too. After a few months, he told me about his family. His family owned a chain of restaurants, and he was going to inherit it when his dad retired. Some people might have been impressed by that, but to me, it didn't change anything. I still loved him the same as before. We moved in together after about a year of dating, and I got to know his family. They all liked me, and everything was perfect. So when Jeff asked me to marry him, I knew right away what my answer would be. We've been engaged for 2 months now, and everything is going great. Then, about 2 weeks ago, I got an email from Jess. We hadn't spoken in nearly 8 years, and I hadn't heard from my family since I was kicked out. I had no idea why she'd reach out now, especially to apologize. She said enough time had passed, and neither of us cared enough to fix things anymore. She said she'd been a nightmare, admitted to setting me up to get kicked out, and made it clear she had no reason to dislike me. I didn't understand why she was revealing all this now, after all these years, especially when I knew she must have heard about my engagement. I had posted about it on social media, and we'd gone to the same high school, so someone must have told her. I felt like something wasn't right, so I started looking into it. That's when I found out that Jess's husband owned the company that supplied plastic containers for Jeff's restaurants. I did some digging, creating a fake profile and going through her husband's social media. I found out everything I needed to know, and it all pointed to one thing. She was trying to manipulate the situation. I told Jeff, and he agreed we needed to cut ties. We were already losing money dealing with her husband, so we decided to cancel the contract. Jess didn't take it well and started accusing me of doing it out of spite. She posted about it on social media, making things ugly between us. I won't lie, some of it was personal, but it was mostly business. Jeff and his dad were already considering dropping her husband as a supplier because of the poor quality. But Jess claimed I did it to get back at her, and things got nasty. I feel bad for her. I really do, but I can't help what happened. I didn't want it to be like this, but I had no choice. And now my mom's trying to defend Jess again, but it doesn't matter anymore. I'm not the same person I was before. I'm engaged to Jeff, and I'm finally happy. I don't need that negativity in my life.